activate.
Dad, where do we, the Borg, come from?
It all begins when a daddy and a toaster love each other very much.
Hey guys, Michael J. Crawford, the Anti-Trekker here, and you know, it is no secret that I am a huge Star Trek fan. And like many of you, when I see things that appear to be a contradiction or just leave open too many questions, well, I have this tendency to start looking for answers. And sometimes, not all the time, but sometimes I stumble on something that I think just might work. Such is the case with the Borg, the most frightening, malevolent force that the Federation has ever encountered. And yet, for all its awesome power, they started out like this. Now, how is this possible, you may ask? Well, in this video, we're going to dig into the origins of the Borg. There's been a lot of conflicting reports as to how long the Borg have been around or what their overall purpose has been in the past. One thing that we do know for certain is that they've been around for a long time, and that their purpose seems to have changed several times throughout the Federation's encounter with the Collective. The overall purpose of my prior videos on the Borg has been to examine each encounter with the Borg and just kind of review the episode step by step. And then, you know, it kind of hit me. We really need to stop, breathe, take a minute and consider, where the heck did the Borg come from in the first place? This then is part 1 of my Borg lore series. No, not lore, but lore. You know, the lore of the Borg. Anyway, this is not a review of a particular episode in which the Borg appear, but an attempt to explore the Collective itself. How did it start? And why did it change over time? So let me be clear about this. The theory that I'm about to present is my opinion. Nothing more and nothing less. To me, the origin of the Borg has always been a fascinating question. But honestly, I've not seen what I feel is a logical answer as to where the Collective got started. I have seen several interesting theories about the origin of the Borg, the most prominent being that the Borg were created by V'ger, which is presented in the video game Star Trek Legacy.
The probe decided all carbon-based life was an infestation of the Creator's universe. Assimilation. That was their only useful purpose, as tools for it to learn and grow.
While the V'ger idea is an interesting one, at least when I look at it, it seems to have one fatal flaw. Namely, that V'ger may not have known what its creator was, but from what we knew watching Star Trek the Motion Picture, V'ger absolutely knew where its creator was. V'ger was on a direct course for Earth throughout the film because it knew that Earth is where the creator would be. V'ger just didn't consider that a carbon-based life form could have been the creator. So amassing an armada of ships to explore the universe in search of the creator seems, well, just doesn't quite fit. That being said, I do think I may have found a connection that creates an in-universe explanation for the Borg. In order to really deduce where the Borg came from, we kind of need to look at the properties of what makes Borg. Well, honestly, that's pretty easy.
This is Captain Jean-Luc Picard of the U.S.
We have analyzed your defensive capabilities as being unable to withstand us. If you defend yourselves, you will be punished.
We're not dealing with an individual mind. They don't have a single leader. It's the collective minds of all of them.
The primary attribute of the Borg from the very beginning has been the collective mind. And we later find out that the collective state is so complete that they don't even show up on sensors as life forms, since each drone is but one part of the larger whole.
I wonder why they don't react to us. Or why the Enterprise didn't read any life signs, especially with this many of them.
Apparently, when they are in these slots, they become a part of the whole and no longer read as separate life forms.
Due to this connectivity, they're able to combine their strength to do various tasks.
This ship literally just thinks what it wants, and then it happens.
The ship appears to be regenerating. Perhaps this explains why they have not taken notice of our presence. Their collective effort is being directed into repairing this vessel.
Finally, one thing we learn a bit later is that the Borg can add a non-Borg humanoid into their collective by injecting them with a substance that takes over the individual's nervous systems while leaving the consciousness intact. We know that the consciousness is left intact because of two basic facts. Number one, we've seen the injection take place, and we know that the people who have been added to the collective and then subsequently removed from the collective, in fact, kept their memory of everything they did while in the collective.
How much do you remember? Everything.
So, if we use all this as a baseline as to what the Borg are, can we figure out where the Borg came from? Well, honestly, obviously you're watching this video, so clearly I think that I may have stumbled across something that works. But in order for this theory to really work, we do need to shed a couple of what I think are unwarranted assumptions that we tend to make in almost every case when we're trying to figure out where the Borg ultimately came from. The first is that the Borg must have started off as a humanoid, since that was their current form. And the second, that at some point in the past, either an organic race developed technology to create the collective, or a form of living machines took over an organic race, or possibly a rogue AI or something. First, that just doesn't make a lot of sense to me. After all, why would living machines or some kind of crazy AI like Skynet or something use organic life to make drones for use? Number one, organic tissue is weak and quite undependable by machine standards. You cannot just unplug a defective limb and replace it like you can with a machine. Organic tissue needs time to heal and cannot regenerate beyond a certain point. Even using a humanoid brain makes very little sense if you consider that it's true that the brain can process massive amounts of information very quickly. Unlike computers, it's subject to, well, human error. We all make mistakes, and it would be illogical to use inferior organic brains as a basis for improving your computer power. So this idea of machines taking over an organic life form seems, frankly, patently absurd to me.
But wait, in the episode Spock's Brain, they used, well, Spock's brain to run a whole underground complex. And in the Enterprise episode Dead Stop, the alien station used a whole slew of brains hooked up to a computer so that it could almost instantly analyze and repair anything that it came across. And on top of that, T'Pol said that the cerebral cortex is the most sophisticated computer ever.
Essentially, the station was using your brain to enhance its processing power.
Why would it do that?
The cerebral cortex is the most sophisticated computer known to exist.
I got you that time.
Now, honestly, those are good points. However, both episodes mentioned demonstrate that big flaw of using organic tissue as part of your computer system. Organic tissue breaks down over time because it's organic, and manufacturing replacement brains is simply not possible in either case. In Spock's brain, the Imorgs feared that if the controller failed, they would all die because they can't replace it unless they find a suitable donor, and their own brains are not sophisticated enough. And in Dead Stop, as powerful as the computer system is, well, it could replicate any material it needed to repair a starship and even replicate organic tissue, but it could not replicate living tissue. Even a simple single-celled organism is beyond its capabilities, according to Dr. Phlox.
Apparently bulkheads aren't the only thing this station can replicate. It's ironic, in a way. The station can duplicate a dead human body in all its exquisite detail, yet a living, simple, one-celled organism is beyond its capability.
So in both cases, they have to go and hunt down a potential replacement if and when a brain fails. A mechanical computer, however, can be replaced quite easily. And in the case of the Dead Stop episode of Enterprise, it could simply replicate its own backup computers. Now, on the flip side of all this, a race of people creating a collective also seems well, frankly, a bit of a stretch, as I kind of find it doubtful that you would get a significant percentage of any population to be willing to surrender their individual minds to join such a collective. To really get at the heart of the matter, we just need to examine the very purpose of technology. Simply put, the primary reason for technology to exist at all is to make what we already need to do easier to do. We need to drink water several times a day. Modern-day plumbing makes that much easier. We don't have to walk down to the river and gather water. If we need to travel from place to place, cars, boats, airplanes, and of course in the future, spaceships, etc., make that very simple to do. We need to acquire and process information on a regular basis. Well, computers and the internet make that very, very simple. But we do not generally look for technology to do things for which we have no need. Now, do keep in mind, I know some people are probably thinking of entertainment, but because of the very sophistication of our brains, entertainment is something we actually need to do. That's where the idea of play is. And most sophisticated animals play, especially when they're younger. So generally, we don't look for technology to do things for which we have no need. Losing one's individuality is not a need that any creature really needs. Boy, that didn't roll off the tongue very well, did it? Anyway, why the collective? So what we need to find is an organic creature that displays the basic properties of the Borg, a species to which the technology of the Borg would simply allow them to do what they already do, just more efficiently, like cars, plumbing, and the internet is to us. Does such a creature exist in Star Trek? Well, duh, you're watching this video, you saw the picture at the beginning of this video, obviously the answer is, well, I think so. So I present to you the original form of the Borg. This is a creature that was not named as a species in Trek canon. However, it is in fact a perfect fit for our quote-unquote natural Borg. This creature in fact displays all the basic properties of the Borg in a natural organic state. First, the collective mind.
Interesting, gentlemen. A one-cell creature resembling more than anything else a huge individual brain cell.
Yes, that would answer a lot of questions.
Do you understand what I'm suggesting, Captain?
I think so. This may be one cell in a larger organism, an incredibly huge organism, in fact.
So as Spock and Kirk discuss this giant brain cell, that it's just one cell in a single creature that lives in a state that we couldn't possibly imagine. Each cell of the creature is separate physically, but still connected to the whole. It is a singular mind. It's just not physically connected, and its cells are huge. So, as Kirk said, an incredibly huge creature. And that brings us to another one of the Borg attributes, the ability to combine their will to accomplish tasks.
And although it is not physically connected to the other cells, it is nevertheless part of the whole creature, guided by the whole, drawing its strength from the whole, which probably accounts for its unusual resistance to our phaser weapons.
We also know that based on the research done by Spock, that these brain cells have been at work for a very long time.
Over here, the Beta Portalin system, the ancient civilizations. Archaeologists have given us information indicating that they were the beginning. 200 years ago, Lavinius V was swept by mass insanity.
When the brain cells encounter a compatible humanoid life, it injects a natural form of the modern Borg nanites into the nervous system of the victim, which very quickly spreads throughout the victim's body.
Evidently, when the creature attacks, it leaves a stinger much like a bee or a wasp, leaving one of these in the victim's body. It takes over the victim very rapidly. And the entwining is far, far too involved for conventional surgery to remove.
Once a victim is attacked, it then begins to take over the victim's body and forcing the victim to do their bidding. In their natural state, it seems that the primary method of motivation is physical pain directed at the victim.
When she answers questions, any questions, it's as if she's fighting to get the answers out. As though something is exerting pain to stop her.
They use it to control us. They need us to be their arms and legs. They're forcing us to build ships for them.
As Kirk's sister-in-law explains, the brain cells are forcing humans to build ships for them since that's something they lack. They need the human form to accomplish basic physical tasks. It would also seem that the collective will of the creature attempts to take over the will of the individual.
The creature, with all of its thousands of parts, even now, is pressuring me. It wants this ship. But I am resisting.
One other interesting similarity to the collective is that the creatures do not appear to show up on sensors due to them not being individual life forms.
Incredible. Not only should it have been destroyed by our phasers, it does not even register on my tricorder.
Captain, doesn't even look real.
It is not life as we know or understand it. Yet it is obviously alive. It exists.
And it can bear up under full phaser power.
So, it is my supposition that this brain creature that Kirk and Spock destroyed at Deneva was just one of a species of brain creatures, and that another of the same species, sometime in the distant past, came across a technologically advanced civilization somewhere in the vicinity of the Delta Quadrant, that they forced this technologically advanced civilization to build cybernetics capable of improving their ability to control the humanoid hosts, and further, other devices to speed up the assimilation process through a synthetic form of their stinger, much like how modern medicine today has created synthetic parts to improve the human condition, ranging from artificial joints, such as the knee implant I recently had installed in myself, to various chemical treatments for a wide variety of mental and physical conditions. These creatures' intelligence continued to grow as more and more humanoids were added to its collective, and it grew to a vastness that defies comprehension. They became the Borg. Now, at least to me, this seems to make the most sense. After all, it's an organic life form that gave rise to the Borg, and the implants that we see are simply a byproduct of them improving their innate abilities. This makes sense because why wouldn't the Borg, if they're truly searching for absolute perfection, simply shed the organic parts completely? Why wouldn't the Borg just be robots? And in fact, couple of times that was actually asked on the show. So I think that it makes sense, but I'm curious to see if you do. Do you think I'm off my rocker, or does this kind of add up to you as well? This is just part one of this Borg lore series. In part two of the series, we'll explore the changes to the Borg that happened over the course of the next few encounters with Starfleet. And maybe we'll get into the possible origin of the Queen. Take care.